Mind Chatter Art, and this is the Haunting Series episode 1. Bro, you need to chill. Robert the doll is an allegedly cursed doll that stands 3 foot tall and looks creepy as hell and currently resides at Fort East Martello Museum in Key West, Florida. As you guys can see, he's quite a celebrity there. He is the inspiration behind the movie Chucky, and that doll gave me the heebie-jeebies when I was a kid. Anyway, pictures of Robert have been circulating on the social media recently, and people have been claiming to have negative experiences just by looking at the picture. Now, Robert has a reputation for being hellish mean to people who disrespect him. Like, click pictures without his permission, mock at him, make fun of him. Now, can you blame him? I believe the act of being respectful shouldn't be sourced from the messed up ideologies we have in our head. Be respectful, period. I don't want to be taking any chances here, so Robert, apologies if I've offended you in any way in the process of making this video. I simply intend to share your story with your permission. Thank you. It all began in 1906 when a young boy named Robert Eugene Otto was gifted this doll by the family maid. Now, the Otto family is said to have a reputation for mistreating their maids, and this particular maid was fired for practicing black magic or voodoo kind of shenanigans in their backyard. But before she left, she handed over this doll to Eugene. This is when the inseparable friendship between the boy and the doll begins. And what was first brushed off as a child's obsession with his new toy by the family later changed because strange things started happening around the house. Eugene's parents or people visiting the family would often find Eugene speaking to a voice in his room. Initially, the parents would think the boy is just changing his voice back and forth like a role play, but the people who came over would tell them, look, you guys are in denial. That voice cannot be coming from a child. And when Eugene was asked whom he was speaking with, he would say, Robert. They would also find his other toys being completely mutilated or destroyed, and when asked who did it, he would point to Robert. The parents would also wake up in the middle of the night to Eugene screaming and find him cowering in the corner with the doll glaring at him. And when asked why he was so scared, he would point at Robert. So everything started pointing back at Robert. As the days go by, the family would also catch sightings of Robert climbing up the stairs, giggling, running around, or causing some mischief. The kids in the neighborhood would also see Robert lurking around near the window and looking at them and moving away. By now, the family kind of had an idea that this is no ordinary doll. It has been said that once a great aunt of the family, upon seeing this unhealthy relationship between the child and the doll, tried to separate them by shunning the doll in her attic. And shortly after this, she suffered a stroke and died. This instilled more fear in the family considering her health, because prior to Robert's arrival, they wouldn't have expected something like this to happen. Robert was united with Eugene again. Fast forward to few years ahead when Eugene is married. Robert is no longer allowed to sleep in the same bed as him anymore. Like, come on, obviously, why would the wife want to sleep with her husband and this 3 foot tall, creepy looking doll? Now, Robert had his own room in the attic where Eugene decorates it with his old toys and stuff. Also, the dress, the attire, the sailor's attire Robert is wearing belongs to Eugene. In 1974, Eugene passed away and Robert would still remain in the attic of this house. The property was later acquired by a woman named Myrtle, and once she moves into the house, it all begins again. She would often hear giggling sounds, scraping and scratching sounds coming from the attic, and when she goes to investigate, she finds Robert there. And guess what she does? She decides to keep him. She ends up moving from that house and decides to take Robert with her. It's been said that she would later donate Robert to the museum, claiming that the doll was ridiculously haunted. A few months later, Myrtle passes away. Though the museum was not really sure of the hauntings behind the doll, they decided to keep it because it belonged to Eugene. Now, Eugene was kind of a big deal in Key West because he had gained fame as an author and an artist, and his house was converted into a local attraction called the Artist House. So, it was kind of a big deal for the museum to own his stuff. As soon as the doll was brought inside, people started claiming that their electronic devices started malfunctioning in the presence of the doll, and when they walked away, it would start functioning again. To this day, the museum receives thousands of letters addressed to Robert begging for forgiveness. They insist on the letters being read to Robert. As I mentioned earlier, Robert demands to be respected. The museum strongly suggests to be respectful towards Robert the doll and ask his permission before clicking a picture. They even tell people to properly introduce themselves to Robert so no offense is taken towards him. It is said that those who have disrespected him have had bad news following them, like dying in a car crash or a death in the family, or just the feeling of being cursed. So that's it for the video, guys. So what do you guys think? Do you guys believe in cursed inanimate objects, or it's an advertising strategy to bring tourists in? I think it's a bit of both. I wouldn't want to mess with it though. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'm signing off here saying thank you, Robert, for letting me share your story.